Hello, my name is Alfredo. Welcome to my piano spacetime. In this video, you will find a bit of discussion about the prelude and fugue in B flat major from the book 1 of Well Tempered Clavier from Johann Sebastian Bach. To start this discussion, I think we shall say that once upon a time there was a young, talented musician in the center of Germany, and he was about 18 years old, and he was appointed to become the organist of the new church in the town of Arnstadt. He had been invited already to perform at the inauguration of the new organ of the church. In fact, our young, very talented musician organist had already quite a significant reputation in the area for being a virtuoso at the keyboard and in particular with the organ. He received a nice employment with a decent pay, and he was having a music enthusiast employing authority. Despite this, it seems that his relationship with his authorities was not always so smooth. However, at a certain point, our young Johann Sebastian managed to receive the permission to take a leave that would last 4 weeks, and he wanted to use this time to travel to northern Germany, to the city of Lübeck. And for what we read, he did travel up to there on foot, walking for about 280 miles. The purpose of the trip was to meet two of the most famous musicians of Germany at the time. One was the great fugue master Johann Adam Reinke, and the other was another extraordinary musician organist. His name is Dietrich Buxtehude. Eventually, Johann Sebastian will stay in Lübeck not 4 weeks, but 4 months. So we can imagine what kind of welcome back home he received from his employing authorities upon returning home. And well, his work assignment will not last that long after this. And for what we read, it seems that certain kind of complaints were sent more and more often to the church authorities regarding these young, exuberant organists that would introduce certain confusing and perhaps bizarre ornamentations in between hymns and sacred songs. And it seems that there were a few people that they kind of didn't like that. But let's step back for a second and let's spend a few minutes regarding this person of Dietrich Buxtehude. Buxtehude was in particular a master in exploiting one particular compositional style at the time that is called Stilus Fantasticus. That means fantastic style. For what I know, Stilus Fantasticus is not an invention of Buxtehude, of course. It's not even something that was born in Germany in that era specifically, but the roots of this compositional style seems to go back in time before those years of 17th century and outside Germany. However, Buxtehude would become a true master in this. And what is this Stilus Fantasticus? As far as I know, I believe the best way to understand that is to go and search for those extended pieces that are generally titled toccata or preludium. And what you will see, what you will hear, what you will find is that these toccatas and preludium are typically made in this way. They start with a section, an episode that is kind of very free, sometimes with virtuoso style figurations without a clear, definite form. in which freedom and fantasy are dominating this scene. And then at a certain point, it enters something more orderly, a fugue, or however, a section with a fugue-like style of composing. And then again, after the fugue, it comes back, typically an episode with that freedom, that improvisational character. And then very often another fugue will start, and then again the free episode will come back. Sometimes you find 3 fugues with in between all these freedom episodes. And Buxtehude also, when you go to hear some of his pieces, you will find that he liked really to be exciting with this. So very typically you hear quick figurations that are flying on the keyboard, and then abruptly they stop in silence for a few moments. And you can imagine people there listening, they were following all these nice things, and all of a sudden, a stop. What is it? So real musical cliffhangers. And always very typical, after these few moments of silence, he liked to put a profound note taken by the pedal in the organ. And the organs in Germany at that time were already equipped with the powerful, profound sounds. In the pedal set of stops, they had what is called posaune. That is a very profound sound, especially when it is paired with the rest of mighty sounds that those organs was having. Organs that in 17th century were displaying often 3 keyboards, sometimes even 4. So these organists enjoyed, creating questions and answers, echoes, contrasts, and going from very delicate sonorities to very mighty and powerful plain sonorities, inserting all the stops of the organ. I believe that if you have a look at the music score, or if you have in mind our prelude in B flat major, I think that is clearly inheriting this kind of style of character from Buxtehude's work, and in any case from the fantastic style that was so much appreciated at the time. And of course, this is not the only example of pieces written by Bach where we find used this kind of compositional approach. Just think about the toccata in D minor, and I believe we have another clear example of the influence that this kind of style had on the young Bach. And there are several other works of especially his young period for organ, but also some of the toccatas for harpsichord are actually written with that style that I presented of alternation between free, sometimes even recitativo-like episodes with fugues and counterpoint style episodes. After saying this, I want to highlight another aspect that is very peculiar in this prelude. But I think that now is the time to go at the piano, because that will help me to present, I hope, a bit convincingly my ideas about this piece. The second aspect I want to highlight about this prelude is something that is very apparent in front of our eyes. Now, we can certainly say that each one of the 48 preludes and fugues of the Well Tempered Clavier are, each of them is on its own a peculiar masterpiece. And this is a cliché, though it is perfectly a true statement. The point is that here we are in front of, I believe, an additional layer of peculiarity together with the inherent, unique character of the piece. And this peculiarity is that if you have a quick review, I believe, unless I missed something, this is the only piece in the Well Tempered Clavier, this prelude, that is written with the main musical line that is in 30 seconds. Yes, you might say that in the first two lines, these 30 seconds are not really the main musical line. I can agree with that, but they will become soon that. And before reaching that point, that will be carried on for a large part of the piece. However, they will quickly become an important integral part in the musical material, whereas I agree that in the very first few bars they are more of a feeling rather than the leading line, but this will not go on for the piece. Yes, you find here and there moments in the Well Tempered Clavier that are written in 30 seconds, but are always ornaments or feelings, like, just to give an example, this figuration is in 30 seconds, but these notes are ornamentations. This would be. This is not, the core of the talk, of the message, of the music. That instead is here in the 30 seconds at a certain point. And the question I like to ask myself is, why is that? And that out of 48 preludes, here Bach decides to write in 30 seconds. Maybe he did that by chance, I have no idea, but as a passionate musician, I like to find, more tasty answers to these nice questions. And so, could it be that Bach had in mind that he wanted, that he used 30 seconds to tell you to be fast? It doesn't satisfy me, these answers, because, let's explore a few examples in the Well Tempered Clavier. Let's take this is the E minor, the D minor of the second book, right? I believe it's a fast piece and is not written in 30 seconds. Or C sharp major, or these are all examples of pieces that I believe can be played very fast, depending on the taste, a bit slower, but they are allegro-like pieces, and they are not written in 30 seconds. So I'm not satisfied in saying that Bach wanted us to be fast here. And so my suggestion is that there is another reason, and I will offer a few hints regarding what this reason could be. And to do that, let's scout around for a few minutes only in the Bach's repertoire for keyboard, and maybe this time we'll scout a bit around in organ, because I think is very evident over there, although you find similar things even in pieces in the harpsichord's repertoire. We'll take our first example, none the less than in the super famous toccata in D minor, right? So the one that starts with. Yes, right here we don't have 30 seconds, this is written in 64ths. But later when we go across the score, for instance here, these are 30 seconds, or seconds. Let's go to find some other examples. Let's take the toccata in C major, the one that comes with the adagio and the fugue. Do you have it in mind? give another example. Let's take the great Fantasy in G minor. You find a nice rendition by Franz Liszt, who rearranged it for the piano. That is not what you have in front. I will do a bit of mess here, however. And the last one I'll give you is the Fantasia in A minor. This is for harpsichords as far as I know. This whole section is in 30 seconds, even when it goes down. So what is it that have in common these episodes? If you listen around to current reputable performance, normally you will realize that these sections are not played at the metronome, but there are those kind of rallentato and rubato. So it's not like at least according to my taste. So I gave you my personal answer. Bach uses the 30 seconds when he wants to express his freedom. The 30 seconds in his writing are the sign of freedom. And I believe that even in our prelude, injecting freedom, especially in the more or less second page onward, is something that gives a very special taste, right? This is so beautiful, at least for me. And yeah, this was my personal tip regarding what would be behind this choice of using the 30 seconds. And the very third quick note before going to something practical is, well, if you think for a bit at this music score, you will realize that the concept is the same that Bach uses for those violin solo episodes, right? It could be played probably, it could be thought more than played by a string. Of course, there is no string with the extension that you need to cover all the notes, but the spirit, the concept of this writing is that concept where the polyphony is disguised in monophony and vice versa. There is monophony that is disguised in polyphony, right? quavers and 30 seconds actually could be played in a way as a sequence of notes one after the other, as it happens with the violin when there are those nice virtuoso figurations, and at times with the violin is possible to play certain chords, certain harmonic intervals, and it is more or less what then it will happen later when there are this section. This string-like basic conception of the language, and this, by the way, will go on with the fugue, because the character of the fugue is also, in my opinion, very evidently the one of a string concerto fugue finale. You can say whatever you want, more than a keyboard style character. I think this happens very, very often in the fugues of the Well Tempered Clavier, and also around the Baroque repertoire for keyboard music. I think my general introduction reached the end, except that I didn't say anything about the fugue, but simply because the fugue is the fugue. It's the fugue with a nice, joyful theme. As always, I believe you can choose your own tempo, your own spirit. It can be rendered in thousands different ways, maybe more joking. Even perhaps more relaxed. Or more vivace, if you like Vivaldi style allegro. Is a few, so I believe it doesn't reserve any particular considerations. Thank you for staying with me so far, and I will now dedicate some time to present a few tips that perhaps might be of use in case you want to study this piece. And perhaps it is necessary for me to put a very strong disclaimer here, in case you are here preparing for a music school examination or a competition. Please go away, stay away from this channel, because what you find here is just my own personal thoughts, and if you need to prepare for those things, stick with what your teacher is telling you to do with this particular piece. And however, I am here to enjoy my time with piano and music, and I hope that for some of you this might be of some help and pleasure. Let's see now a few work tools that I will suggest to try to build your confidence in playing this piece. A first thing is that if you want to play fast this preludium, I feel personally that sticking with the thumb on the F that you have here in the middle, and then on the B flat, I don't know, I feel it slightly uncomfortable. It's kind of locking me if I want to accomplish speed. I prefer instead to alternate 1 and 2. That gives to me a sense of freedom in my gesture. I feel like I can better fly on these keys. See what I mean? it requires a bit of time to, how to say, become natural in this changing of the finger, but I feel that at the end it gives, at least for me, a bit of more freedom. And of course, in these figures, you want to explore what is the right degree of forearm rotation to help you grasping all the notes near or far from the bass note, the F or the B flat. So it's not just a simple finger playing, but activate the degree of freedom that your arm has. In particular, I think the rotation. And of course, we should practice trying to remember that we have a main beat taken by the left hand, and the second main beat is the second note in the right hand, right? So not to develop a habit that would make things sound like. So a way to practice this, I feel, could be equally important, equally useful is instead to skip the first 30 seconds in the right hand and strike right away that second main beat for each quaver. That means several times, so that you would develop familiarity both in doing here, paying attention especially when you go far with the weak fingers to get that note clear and present. The arm cooperates with the finger to take that note with good assertivity. In the introduction, I mentioned quickly about this disguised polyphony in a monophonic line, or vice versa, you can say in the opposite way, it still works. So I want just to underline, let's see the polyphony that we have underneath this figuration. Maybe with a bit more of sensitivity. Okay, and so now, of course, I would never dictate what you should do with phrasing, with legato, staccato. It's, such, I believe, a free kingdom, and it depends on your taste, on your feelings, on so many things. But I just leave here, this is kind of my diary, my thoughts, and then you are free to take them as yours or to reject them. I don't feel that playing staccato the left hand, as I see in the edition that I have in front here, I don't feel to me the appropriate thing for this kind of writing, because as I said, this would sacrifice that game of the polyphony that is hidden in the figuration. So if if you like it, of course, do it. I personally prefer something else. I prefer to think about these lines as it is a cello in a playful way. So I don't even care about saying I play legato, staccato, portato. I just play with that. And like often when you hear good cellists playing Baroque music, it seems that you don't find a rule, an order. They just follow the flow, and sometimes they underline a step with a staccato, sometimes with a legato, sometimes with a portato. So we can play it alone for a few times, exploring, seeing what, according to your taste, makes this line more beautiful. And perhaps with a crescendo. This is about these first 2 bars and a half. So let's keep going. Now we start finding a figuration that would be conveniently split between the 2 hands. You can search for the junction points in the way that you feel work better for you. You see here my own fingering and splitting arrangement. You can try it out, and if it works for you, you are welcome to use it. And the basic thing I want to underline is that I believe we don't have to think about this as a work for your fingers alone. Actually, I believe that the most important part of the work is done upstream in your physical, flow of actions. For instance, the main beats are often clearly taken by your muscle in the shoulder, because they are the ones that activate this arm going up and down, right? So if I do like this, I am exaggerating to make it evident. What is it that is lifting my arm and then decides to let it fall is the action of the muscles that I have here. So for this note, it is my shoulder that is the engine of the situation. I am simplifying things. However, this to say that then along the figuration that you are playing, there will be contribution in other muscles and parts of your arm, forearm, hand, depending on what makes the figuration easier, comfortable in that moment. And I believe that here, I'm tempted to say, as always, rotation is a big part. Rotation of the forearm. So we could practice this figuration, shutting down any actions in the fingers as a training step, and just playing these notes with the arm, and in particular, exaggerating the rotation of the end. And then gradually you start releasing what you for a while locked, just for the purpose of exploring your possibilities somewhere else. You can then unlock your fingers and let them cooperate. But I feel the image is that your fingers will work as your feet when you walk or run. Of course, you are not walking or running because the actions of the feet alone, clearly not, right? And I think playing is the same thing. So the feet are essential, are the last, ring in the chain that has to, perform an important functions of channeling in the right way. So they must develop their solidity, their structural role, but they are not alone the engine, and probably they are the least part in the driving action. So let's now activate a cooperation of the fingers that, of course, they need to do these actions. because the key is producing the sound when it goes down. So I don't see any reason about why we should stretch the finger up to search about, I don't know which power. The power is overly available from the arm upstream the fingers. And this doesn't mean that I need to restrain the movements of my fingers, that is forbidden to see my fingers lifting. If lifting is a natural step of freedom that perhaps is giving a bit of momentum to that particular note, but generally what the fingers have to be able to do is to go down, channeling a coordinated action that involves forearm, arm, shoulder muscles to different degrees depending on that specific moment. I feel I need to practice, for some time these junction points, trying to make them seamless, right? So I can park my attention there for a while. Okay, let's keep going here. So we are at... Again, you see my fingering, and I want to drive your attention here to one thing. So we have this F, right? Do you realize, do you feel it in your feelings? These are things that at least I feel first, and then maybe sometime I like to, why do I feel that? What is that feeling I have inside? Do you feel that this F in the musical message, in the musical fabric, has a very different role compared to the F that we have at the very beginning? Here in the first bar, this F is nearly nothing, is a complement, an harmonic feeling. But here, I think in composition is called the dominant pedal. The dominant pedal is something that generates expectation, positive tension. Is a note, the dominant, in the scale that is held for a long time, and over it there are harmonies that develop. It is the case. And the dominant, that is of course in the key, the note that is creating attention to find a resolution, is generating with these harmonies developing a sense of what will happen next. And this is precisely what we find here, right? So we can imagine this like a pedal here. And here it is what is gonna happen. There is this beautiful rising up with this note. So I think it would be very appropriate to play with lower volume at the beginning, maybe with the soft pedal, and then a crescendo. What it comes after that expectation, after that rising, this joy flourishing or explosion, you call it as you like. Let's see a bit of the fingering. the possibility of using the pedal, I feel that here the harmony is progressing so intensely that I like to hold a bit these notes. And you see, right, that at the beginning our important notes were, and as I said, in the middle there was just a complement. But here in the middle we have a very important line. So here I think really we can release ourselves, and each of these notes are important. And here this flourishing, I don't know, personally I cannot think about it like I don't know. I feel and here again in the middle we have a very important, beautiful line in my opinion. So the harmony altogether is listen at this melody here in the middle. So here I like really to leave myself and giving to each of these notes a kind of, they are all leaders. Even here in the higher line, which one is the more important? I cannot choose. Even the bass is beautiful. So of course, if you want to play forte fortissimo these chords, you might want to practice a bit of drops, of folding on them. So hitting the keys, that requires a contraction, a tension in your fingers, and then as quickly as possible to recover a relaxation after that. So this training exercise. That for me is also helpful to warm up. I didn't warm up this morning because this really wakes up your fingers' reactivity. That is what they have to do when there is power delivered from the arm. And then again, this flourishing figuration. I cannot think about it like a simple sequence of quick notes. No, because you see, so we are here, and what would be the landing point? Is in fact what we'll find one bar later, right? And this flourishing, see, when I am here, I should close. Bach is doing. And you see what we have here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 full tones. In the antique music, I think 3 tones in a sequence were called devil in music. But here we have 4 of them. It is horrible, I feel. It's the hell coming out of the piano, and I feel I wanted to underline that. Here you see how I split the scale. And oh, sorry, I stepped back for saying one thing. So regarding practicing this scale, that thanks God is going downwards, so it's the more comfortable direction for our right hand. So if you are like me that do not practice at all scales, unfortunately, because perhaps like me you have say 6-7 hours in a week to sit at the piano, and I don't want to waste them in playing scales, I feel how to practice it. First, to develop the reactivity of your fingers in staccato, and as a preparatory step, playing each note with your full arm action. So the shoulder muscles are the engine, and all the rest is a, kinematic chain to reach the key. You can even repeat each note. Important is that when you strike the key, you let your arm, become relaxed. And while you do that, you feel that your fingers, muscles are waking up, are warming up. They become more reactive in what they need to do. That is to channel the energy that is coming from upstream. And after you've done a couple of times these, single notes, falls on each note, you start going to a more, to a less staccato playing. And notice that your hand is comfortable with different angles depending on which side of the keyboard you are traveling on. When I'm here, it stays fairly, perpendicular to the keyboard. But when I am more or less here, you see that naturally the end likes to stay, of course, inclined with respect to the orthogonal. So I'm not here to talk about geometry, but just pay attention, feel it, and so don't fight against natural, tendencies that are acting to bring you to where things are comfortable. So there are often, you realize that if you do not fight against this natural orientation of your hand to tilt, you might realize that those steps are easier to play. But I was saying about how to practice this scale. So staccato single notes, then kind of portato, and then legato. And perhaps even repeating segments of the full figuration. And again, trying to avoid movements in your fingers that are happening against the physical a reality that is that you need to go down, you know. So feel that you are excavating in the keyboard to grasp these notes. You don't have to look up in the sky. There is the sky, there is not the keyboard. Rotation of the forearm, and the upper arm is also acting, you know, making you feel that, oh, I should be free to go forward, I had better coming backward, depending on the step where you are. Let's see here a possibility about how to split this upgoing scale between the two hands. So we are here. And I intentionally exaggerated, you know, the action of my playing mechanism. If you are seeing, the full arm is in charge to taking the main bit of each quiver. So with a fall, with a drop. And it is active even after that in, you know, moving forward, or the forearm in rotating to help the fingers. It's like you feel the fingers are calling for help, for support from the arm, or vice versa. You can see the arm is going towards the fingers' action to help them, to cooperate them, to make them feel supporting, solid in what they are doing. There is forearm rotation, very important. Especially rotation anti-clockwise, rotation clockwise, so clockwise going upwards, anti-clockwise going on the F here, then again clockwise. Here there is the temptation of holding these notes. I think would be a very good idea. Also at the very beginning. Mostly rotation and going downward of the fingers like this. Alright, I think I said about the prelude what I had in mind to say about studying it. And the fugue, I think there is not too much to say, in the sense that if you go to take my video about the prelude and fugue in F sharp major, I think you will find in there study ideas that would be applicable here. In particular, if you want to render this fugue with a concerto allegro of string concerto style in a Vivaldi fashion. And you know that Bach admired Vivaldi. He rearranged I think three or four of Vivaldi's string concertos for the organ, to play himself at the organ, and are beautiful things to hear. The Bach Vivaldi concertos, or better, the Vivaldi Bach concertos, I would rather say. So why not reading this fugue with that spirit? But however, it's not the only possibility, so I don't want to dictate anything about this. Go according to your preference. Well, let's take just a couple of bars, for example, here when there are all the three voices. So first left hand. This is sufficient, 3-4 times to start familiarizing with the keys, with the notes, and at every repetition to see what degree of, whole physical action helps you to be smoother and fluid. There is some rotation, some moving forward, backward, some falls. And here. So smoothing down things. And I feel always it's a good idea, after you have worked a bit on all the notes, to remove the secondary notes in the musical flowing rhythm and practice your macro movements in your playing mechanism on the main beats of the musical flow. So and then you fill up. Trying to do it without interruption, because you want to shift your presence from a rational mind control to letting you dance with this flow, and trying to let your body to drive it, while your body develops familiarity, memory with those gestures, that choreography you want to accomplish. I think we find the trickiest problem in this fugue in terms of technical issues to deal with, especially for me when it comes actually in the left hand. So I jump at the next line, so where we are here. Depending on the keys you are in this figuration, that is a double, an overlapping of lines. Depending on the keys that you are in, because it appears so many times in different keys, at least for me, it is sometimes very, very tricky. And how I studied that? Well, I did like that. First, I remove the notes as usual. I try to develop control on the main frame of the rhythm in the line, and then gradually I fill up with the secondary note. What does it mean? while you fill up, you also realize that there are movements that you cannot perform with that extension. So you have to limit them, but still would be present. And to find that tiny amount of presence that is the right amount that makes things fluid, comfortable, and effective. If you hear my performance, perhaps you notice that I try to play with a bit of echo effects here in these two bars, if you like that, like. And so depending on the speed you want to play this, it might be fairly difficult, you know, actually even much difficult for me later when there are certain keys. However, it's a matter of having time to practice that. The right hand is less problematic. This is an example. I think there are 2, 3, perhaps 4, where the theme is split across the two hands, so some attention in getting that note in the theme present. After you have practiced a bit all the notes, perhaps many more times slowly than fast, then to remove the secondary note. Same story here. It's all the same working on that. I think the things I said are always applicable. Here again there is a step where for me is very complicated to handle the text. remove the notes and maintain the notes, to shift this game of removing and keeping the notes written, not to work on too complicated things at the very first time. So to gradually develop your orientation and familiarity in this game you have here. It's very complicated for me. I show you the fingers I decided to use. So the last line. Left hand. The right hand. Alright, I think I said what I had in mind to say. Thank you for watching this video if you reached this point, and I hope to see you again in one of my next presentations.